The term depth of field describes the amount of distance in a photograph from near to far that appears to be in focus. While filming or taking pictures, we have to focus our lens for the purpose of having a sharp image. It's generally accepted that the main subject in a picture should be in focus. But do we want the background or foreground to be in focus as well? What about the people or elements behind the person we want to photograph? Maybe we would be better to just have our model's face in focus and the rest nicely blurred out.
Can we decide on this?
In most cases, we can. We use depth of field to decide on an amount of distance which will be in focus in front of and behind the point on which we focused our lens. This means that if there is, let's say, a background that we don't like, then by using a shallow depth of field we will be able to blur it out, or if we like it, make it look sharp by stretching the depth of field. A picture with a great depth of field will look like all the elements in it are in focus, while a picture with a shallow depth of field will have just a few or one element in focus and the rest will be blurred out. Depth of field is governed by three factors: aperture, lens focal length, the shooting distance. For purposes of this program, we assume that you are familiar with these terms. The rule is, the smaller the aperture, the deeper the depth of field, and vice versa. The bigger the aperture, the depth of field will be shallower. For example, if we place our camera on a tripod, which means our shooting distance stays the same and we'll leave the lens focal length unchanged, then by changing the aperture we should notice a change in range of elements being in and out of focus in our frame. We should observe that the depth of field is much deeper at, let's say, f-stop 22 than at f-stop 1.4. If you need a shallow depth of field, open your lens as much as you can, set your aperture to the smallest reading, and you will get a shallow depth of field. If you need a great depth of field, close your lens as much as you can, set the f-stop to number 16 or higher, and you will get a great depth of field. You can also affect the depth of field by changing the other two parameters. We will cover this in our next program.